As usual, the head general Paul had left on one of his expeditions. This meant that the 3 other generals were left to run the military base, including the school, while the others were away. Mike, the oldest and most experienced of the generals, was mainly in charge of running the base and other soldiers when this happened. This was a task usually for the head general, but because he was often away on other work, Mike would be put in charge. What this meant was the remaining 2 generals, Nathan, head of first years, and Duke, head of second years, were in charge of running the school. Inside his office, Nathan had his feet up on his desk and was lying back in his chair. It was the first time he felt this way in a while. With the first year on the outing, there wasn't much for him to do at the moment, and he could finally take a break. "I wish I had this much free time every day," Nathan said. Although he was still concerned about the students, the fact that Leo was with them eased him a little. He was one of the very few people who actually knew Leo's real strength. The probability of the students being on a high-risk planet was low, but even if they were, he was sure Leo could deal with it. Just then a loud knock was heard on his door. "Come in," Nathan shouted. The soldier quickly opened the door and had a panicked look all over his face. "Sir, it's Sergeant Leo. He has sent a message informing us that he will be coming back soon." "What?" Nathan said, jumping out of his chair. "It's only been 1 day." The man gulped before passing on the next bit of information. "That's not all, sir. I think you better take a look at the report he sent. It seems like the whole shelter will be evacuated from the place." Quickly, Nathan read the detailed report that had been written, and his eyes opened wide. If what was in the report was true, he couldn't fault Leo's decision-making. Inside the portal room in the school, multiple medical staff and military personnel were there waiting on standby due to Nathan's orders. The information from the integration at the shelter had been passed on. Most of the students had already been healed at the shelter, but this was just a precautionary measure. Nathan was also standing in the room, nervously tapping his foot away until finally the portal started to flicker. The first person to come through the portal was Leo, and eventually all the students began to follow from behind. The students were led to their class groups, where their teachers would round them up and wait for further instructions. When the last student exited the portal and everyone there had been confirmed present, Nathan gave the command. "Cut the link," Nathan ordered. 2 soldiers immediately ran up to the portal and pressed 2 buttons on either side of the portal. A few seconds later, the orange wavy-like color had disappeared. Looking at the portal through the circle, the other end of the wall could be seen. This was a necessary step to make sure that no beasts or other things would be able to follow them from behind and enter the base. The portal was then quickly taken away, off to the side. It wouldn't be used for student activities, and would only be used once again when the portal color had been changed to red and for stronger soldiers to enter. The students didn't know what was going on, as they waited in the room for the next command. While doing so, Vorden had a heavy thought on his mind as he looked over in the direction of Sia. "Hey, Quinn, we need to do something about Sia," Vorden whispered. "She saw your abilities, and not only that, but she also saw Fex transform into that thing. I don't know why she hasn't told anyone yet, but it's too risky for her to know." Hearing this, Quinn couldn't agree more. It didn't matter why Sia was keeping it a secret. Unlike the others before, she wasn't a friend. "Before you go," Vorden said, as he placed his hand outward and handed something over to Quinn. When looking at what he had just been given, Quinn noticed it looked identical to the earring that Fex was wearing, black in color and with a rectangular shape. "It's that flying bull. It told me to hand it back to Fex. While you're talking to him, you can hand it back." Quinn looked at the item and found it interesting that the bull was able to transform into a small piece of jewelry like this. It made him wonder if he would be able to get something like this. As he walked over to Fex and handed over the earring, he leaned over and started to whisper. He asked, "Hey Fex, we were just speaking, but do you think you could use your skills on Sia to make her forget about the whole situation?" "I don't think it will be a problem, but I'll be honest with you, it's a lot of information and a lot of things happen. It will be hard to fill in the blanks in her head if I do this. It might even cause her brain to be slightly damaged, removing so many events." Quinn didn't like the sound of that. He despised the thought that he might have to harm people connected to his case in order to keep it hidden. Just because she had the fate of joining Quinn's team, she would now have to suffer for it. When someone did something wrong to him, like the time in the desert, he had no problems, but Sia hadn't directly tried to hurt him. "What do you think?" Quinn asked, hoping for some guidance. If it was down to me, I would have removed her memories already. It's just too risky, Quinn. I know you by now, and maybe you feel bad for her, but if humans find out about us, then that means the vampires will also find out about us, and I'm more worried about them. They will kill and slaughter every person that knows of this secret to keep it hidden." What Fex said hit Quinn quite hard. Not only would they go after him, but Vorden, Peter, Layla, Aaron, and Leo. It would affect multiple people who had only helped him so far. Quinn clenched his fist, mumbling, "Sometimes we have to sacrifice a few to save many." He hated saying these words, but he needed to convince himself. It felt like what he was about to do right now was no different from what the military was doing. They hadn't even tried to save the people at the shelter they were at. But they had a choice, while Quinn felt like he did not. "Go ahead," Quinn said, as he gave the nod. Right now, Sia had departed from the others. She had promised herself that she would keep the others' secrets, but the main reason was that she didn't want to be involved with people like that. A group of students who had way too many secrets. It just smelt like trouble. She didn't like the military that much in the first place, so getting on their good side didn't mean much for her. If she could go through her life without ever having to interact with others again, then she would be happy. The problem was, she couldn't. While deep in thought about what her next move would be, she felt someone walking up from behind. "You!" she said, a little startled as she moved back a bit. Still in her head were images of what the student had turned into. Although she was terrified, she quickly took a deep breath and calmed herself down. There was a high chance that Fex just had a transform ability that changed him into a type of muscular creature. Still, she remembered the power and loss of control Fex had back then, and it seemed like the bloodsucker was a lot more frightening than even the king-tier beast they had faced. "Don't worry, you won't be afraid of me anymore," Fex said, as his eyes started to glow red. It was the usual thing, and something Fex had done plenty of times while in school. He just needed to wait for the typical response, as her eyes would start to grow dull and glow a slight red in return. Sia, seeing Fex's eyes change slightly, stepped back. "Hey, what are you trying to do to me?" she shouted. As she did this, a few of the students nearby turned their heads to look at what was going on. "Huh? Why isn't it working? Am I too tired? No, that can't be it," Fex thought. "Is her mind strong?" He didn't quite catch on to what was happening at first, since it was a feeling he wasn't used to, but it was clear that she was able to resist his powers. Seeing that now, others were paying attention to them. Fex quickly turned around. "Sorry, just forget about it," he said as he walked off back to the others. "Did you do it?" Quinn asked, unsure of what had just happened. "No," Fex replied. "She resisted it. It's the first time something like this has happened." "Isn't she only a level 4 ability user?" Quinn thought. The influence skill relied on one's charm skill. Up to this point, Fex's charm had always been higher and stronger than Quinn's. Fex had used his ability on several students before, and that included level 4 ability users. He never thought of the possibility of his influence not working. The problem was, it didn't matter how strong the individual was with their abilities. It was all about how strong their minds were. There were some people Quinn could imagine the influence skill never working on, such as Logan, Vorden, and Leo. These people were too strong-willed. However, when looking at Sia, he didn't feel the same way. Wasn't she just an ordinary student? So why didn't Fex's influence work on her? Hearing the shocking news that Fex had just failed, Quinn was busy pondering what to do. There was always the chance that something like this might happen. Perhaps a high level would see them, and they would be unable to deal with it in the usual way. This thought was always in the back of Quinn's mind. When he thought about it again and again, the ending that played out in his head was always the same. He would have to kill them. It was too risky to leave something open, and while he was still in military school, there was no chance to run away or escape. While looking at Sia, images started to flash through Quinn's mind of the possible ways he could do this, and a certain disturbing image entered his head. One of them was holding Sia in both hands with blood dripping from his mouth, and by her neck there were 2 puncture wounds. "Hey, why don't you try to clear her memory?" Fex said. This suggestion might have seemed out of the blue before, but right now, not so much. Fex had his reasons. After witnessing Quinn fight against the king-tier beast, he knew that his speed was already that of a vampire noble. Fex wasn't sure if Quinn had evolved and gone to the stage of vampire noble just yet, but there was still a chance his charm was stronger than his. Coincidentally, when Fex had made this suggestion, Quinn had thought the same thing. Were his current charm points higher than Fex's? He felt a great increase in speed once his points had reached above 30. If his charm skills didn't work against Sia, there was a good chance that it could still work once his charm skills had reached above 30. It could work, but if it doesn't... Before he could even make a decision, Nathan had already started to make an announcement. "Listen up, everyone," Nathan said as he raised his hand in the air. "There is no need for the students to stay here any longer. Feel free to head back to your rooms, and in the morning we shall inform you of your schedule next week. We might even send a message out tonight, so keep an eye out for it on your wristwatch. As for all homeroom teachers, I would like you to stay behind for now." As soon as Nathan said those words, the doors to the portal hall opened wide, and the students were heading back to their dorm rooms. They were tired, defeated, and wanted to forget about the experience they had gone through. By then, Sia was already gone. It was now night, and the curfew for the students to stay in their rooms was about to pass. For now, he would have to trust Layla to keep an eye on her until he met up with her the next day. All the students promptly left the room, and the teachers remained, along with the sergeants and Nathan. "First, I would like to tell you that the whole planet has been evacuated of military personnel for now. We will no longer be required to explore the planet, and a special ops unit will be sent in the future to figure out whether the Dalki have already inhabited the place or not," Nathan explained. "Wait, I don't understand," Dell said, a little frustrated. "I thought we all left because we knew the Dalki were there." "Our information sources say they might have been chased away, or even something else. The reason why I am saying this is that their base is still full of blue crystals. If the Dalki had taken over the planet already, they would have taken all the crystals with them already." Although Dell didn't have any wish to continue the mission alone, he thought they might still have a chance to complete it with Leo and Faye by his side. He knew what the military was like. He had been with them long enough. Because this expedition had been cancelled early, they would soon ask them to go on another one. If they had finished this one, they might have been good for a whole year. "This information would have been passed on to you all later on anyway," Nathan explained. "The real reason why I asked you to stay behind is the upcoming Intermilitary base event in 2 weeks." "What does that have to do with us?" a female teacher asked. "Usually all the second years take all the places, right?" "Yes, usually that is the case, but this year they have decided to do something different. There are a few strong first-year students from the other military bases that wish to take part in the event. So this year, they have decided that each class must select at least one student for the 3 main events: Ranged Ability Tournament, Fighting Tournament, and Crafting Tournament. You all should have a list ready for me by the end of the week of who you think will participate. Paul has stated that this intermilitary tournament is an important event, so you must select your best. If your students do well, this will reflect well on you, and you will be rewarded for it. Not all of our positions are based on strength, and soon one of our oldest sergeants will be retiring. Does anyone have a list of the current rankings of students?" Hearing what Nathan had just said, Dell started to have a slightly worried look on his face. Not only did the students think Dell's class was one of the weakest ones, but the teachers did as well, and Dell was aware of this. In his head, he was trying to think of just who to pick for the event. A soldier from the side walked up to Nathan and handed him over a tablet. On the tablet was a list of every first-year student with a score beside their name. Well, this is a surprise," Nathan said. "It seems like Dell's class has the most top-ranked students currently." Hearing this, his jaw nearly dropped to the floor. He thought, then suddenly, how could it be? He started to remember what had happened. Leo had awarded the group with the most points for the outing. That group belonged to his class. Not only that, but in the last assessment, Quinn and his group didn't do too bad either, scoring around the mid-level. With top scores in one and middle scores in the other, it positioned Quinn's group and teammates relatively high on the current ranking. "I shall be expecting some good things from you," Nathan said as he looked at Dell. "Now go get some rest, everyone. I will update you with what is to happen tomorrow." At another military base, it seemed like the group of teachers were having a similar meeting. However, this one was a lot more formal. All the teachers had gathered in a meeting room. There were a total of 10 teachers, including the sergeant, who sat at the head of the table. One of the teachers sat upright, stiff and listening keenly to every word being said. "Does everyone understand?" a relatively large, fat man said at the front. "Yes, sir," Silver replied the quickest, and was the most responsive. "Why can't you guys be more like her?" the man said. "Not only does she always look stunning in the morning, but she works hard, is responsive, and she's the new one. Keep this up." The man then turned off the presentation as he left the meeting room. The other teachers followed, leaving the room one by one, when a male teacher named Justin noticed that Silver still hadn't left her seat. She had remained in the same position throughout the meeting, and even when it was over she remained firm. "Hey, Silver, the meeting's over. Are you coming back?" Justin asked. Silver turned her head, and her silver hair with strands of black was tossed across her face. As Justin saw this, he felt like he was watching one of those shampoo commercials in slow motion. Everything seemed to slow down as he appreciated her beauty. "I'm sorry, my mind was on something else," Silver said, as she stood up from her seat and walked straight past Justin out of the door, ignoring him. "Wait!" Justin called out. "Maybe I can help. Do you need anything?" Silver lifted her hand and wafted it about in the air. "I don't think I would even ask for your help with boiling an egg. Just stick to teaching." As she walked off, her head was still filled with one thought. In the meeting, they mentioned the tournament was coming up. Every single base would travel to Base 1 to participate, the largest military base of them all. Here, she would finally meet the person she was looking for. "I can almost smell you, Fex," she said as she licked her lips.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.